Hello and welcome back to Bricking It. In our last video we concentrated on building up the Defence Against the Dark Arts classroom. Now let's do the interiors. So we've stripped it back and we're concentrating first on year 1 with Professor Quirrell. And as you know, if you've seen the movies, Professor Quirrell didn't actually spend any time in this classroom whatsoever. Due to the closing off of the 3rd floor corridor, he was in a completely different room, having a hug with an iguana. So, when I display my first year, I generally treat this as an abandoned classroom. So we're going to put up plenty of spider webs, just to show that it's completely abandoned. So I like to think this is on the same corridor as Fluffy. Year 2, we move on to Professor Lockhart, who has a couple of distinctive features, namely a self-portrait of a self-portrait and all his photographs with famous people. Both of these of course have been produced by Lego already, and it's a simple case of adding them into the scene. My photographs, instead of being on the road sign pieces, are on 2x2 tiles. Simply attach these across the back of the classroom. Some of these are raised up on a 1x2 plate, but mostly it's just a tilt table with that sticker tile attached, and that gives us set dressing for Professor Lockhart's classroom. Of course, one of the most famous classes he teaches is with the Pixies. This is my Pixie container. It's just used one of those bottom balloon pieces held onto a telescope piece. And I've inserted a wand into the base of this Pixie. You can see it's very firmly in there. It's going to need some major surgery to remove that, I think. But it does just provide us just essentially a pin connection that will go through the centre of the stud in the bowl and hold that Pixie firmly in place. You could equally well just sit in there, but I don't want things rattling around in case the castle gets a knock or I'm moving modules. Can you see he's nicely in there. For the top of the container, which is a cage in the movie obviously, but I'm just going for this kind of bell jar look. Just going to use one of those action handles to attach it to Professor Lockhart's hand. And this stud on the wall will hold another Pixie. I think I might replace some of the plain brick around the windows with other studs. They'll come in handy for other reasons, but mainly to put Pixies on. Once the students come back in, that's our year 2 classroom with Professor Lockhart. Our teacher in year 3 is of course Professor Lupin. Just going to add him into the mock. And his most famous class is of course the Boggart banishing class. So I've just made this gramophone up. Nice and simple, a 1x2 and a 1x3 joined together with a plate. We've just got on these printed record pieces. An antenna piece to be the record's needle. And then the gramophone is made up of a pin plate, an action handle, a cone and an inverted radar dish. Fairly simple. I wanted it quite robust because it's going to live in a small book box when it's not being used. So it's not quite as delicate as I'd like, but it does the job perfectly well. I'm going to add in a couple of students. And of course this is where I'll show you my build for the Boggart Banishing Wardrobe. Instead I'm going to turn to Duncan Egg Bricks. In part 29 of his epic 65 part Building Hogwarts video set, he built a really nice Boggart wardrobe. Here it is. This is exactly the design I'm going to be using in my classroom. Currently I'm out of the bricks that I need to build it, so they're all on order and on their way. But if you haven't gone and watched Duncan Egg Bricks Hogwarts build, and I heartily recommend it, pays much more attention to the exteriors of his builds than I do, and his interiors are enviable. I've even used a couple of other elements of his builds in my design, so go and check out Duncan Egg Bricks on YouTube. I'm going to use a stand in right now. I'm just going to put my blackboard in just so we get a feel of it, and of course we've got our Boggart Dementor to face off against Harry, just using the old Dementor model. But even better, is Boggart Snape. I just made a few enhancements to the original figure, adding the fur collar and the crow to the top of the hat. Another famous class during the 3rd year is when Snape takes over to teach them about werewolves, and he uses this rather epic projector, so we're just going to build up a little version of that. Got a cone and a telescope, a roller skate, one of these headlight bricks on its side, and a cheese slope on top of that. And that's going to form the main body of the projector. And these 1x2 rounded end plates is going to hold a round 2x2 jumper. It's going to be our slide wheel. Of course, for the lens, just another cone. Nice simplified design, but it gets the message across. Doesn't take up too much room, where space is always at a premium in one of our builds. That's going to sit at the back of the classroom alongside Professor Snape himself. Now, it wouldn't be much good having a projector in the classroom if we didn't have a screen. It's just going to be a fairly simple build on these pin plates with a lightsaber hilt. I'm using one of these 4x3 bricks, but a panel will be equally good, probably even better because it's thinner, and as you're going to be looking at it in profile, might make more sense. This is just going to sit at the front of the classroom. So there we have our projector and screen with Professor Snape. We can add our students back in, just see that projectors nicely above their heads, even more so with the longer leg students that are sitting down. And this is the class where we need to have our desk just a little more forward than usual to make space at the back of the class for that projector. There we go. Once we add them all back in, gives us a nice full classroom. It's quite a nice scene, I enjoy that one. We're just going to remove our students and our teacher. We're going to fill in the background detail in Lupin's class. As you can see, there's all kinds of glass jars and bottles and various knickknacks across the back. So that's what we're going to use to detail Lupin's office, or his classroom rather. Just nice and simple. Various trans clear cones with some studs or round tiles on the top. Got this quite nice hourglass, I think came from a Sanctum Sanctorum basement set. That'll just give us a bit more of something to look at in the background of Professor Lupin's class. There's 2 different versions of a classroom for the 3rd year. It's time to move on to year 4. So of course we get Professor Moody and our teacher in the 4th year. And we get to bring back in that blackboard now to have a proper look. Just a 1x2x5 panel. Got that Moody sticker on. I quite like the detail on the top. It's quite easy to achieve. Just use a little jumper through those rounded end plates with bars and a snitch on top. And that can sit here in the corner. If it's Moody's classroom, we'll turn that around and display the sticker. And of course, Moody's classroom's full of all sorts of things. So along the back here, we're going to start off with some faux glasses. And these couldn't be much simpler. The first one comes directly from the Hogwarts Moments Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Using one of these trans clear shoe plates. And that's just held onto one of these clips with a bar, or plates with a bar rather, into a cone. And the other one's even more simple. It's just a magnifying glass on a jumper plate. That's our first bit of decoration. Second one's a weird one. It's these strange eyeballs on stalks. I don't remember seeing them in the movie, but they're clearly there in the stills. We even got a sticker version in the Hogwarts Moments book. These are nice and simple. The first one's just a rounded plate with a paddle in it and an eyeball. The next one we're going to use a pin plate and a lightsaber hilt and one of these, I call them paddles, it's probably a plate with bar they should be called, and another eye print. Recently put in a different order to get a bit more variety out of these. For our eyeball tiles, I've only got the googly eyes at the moment. This one's simply a paddle in a cone. And the last one is just going to use a telescope piece and a paddle. That gives us our weird eyeball-y things. I do like the oddness of them. Just decorating the background of the classroom. Now for our last build up the back here, we're going to sort of replicate this kind of device at the back. So we're sticking with the black and gold colour scheme. I've tried to use throughout the decorations. We've got one of these plates with bar and another one with a 1x1 clip and then a 1x1 stud. Another one of our paddles, this time with an opalescent tile in it. These are both going to attach onto a 1x2 plate at the bottom. Going to cap those off with the jumper in black, and just for a bit more interest, just a stack of 1x1 plates just to form a something machine. I honestly don't know what it is, but I did just like the random oddness of the piece, and I thought that'd be great in the background of a classroom. Good thing about this one, it can be changed to shape. I'm going to try and wedge this one right in the corner here, just so that we can, it's not quite such a linear feature at the back. Just by adjusting these arms and things, get a bit more of an interesting look in the back corner of our classroom. So there's the decorations for Moody's room. Probably the most extensive and the most distinctive of all of them. Of course, as we know, Moody's most famous class is where he teaches the unforgivable curses. So we've got one of these medium nougat spiders. And of course we can add the students in. We'll leave the backboard in place for Professor Umbridge's classroom. And, well, that's pretty much it done. So if we take a look at a screenshot of Professor Umbridge's classroom, there is zero decoration. Just how she rolls. For Snape's classroom, there's a few changes. Now, I bought these stickers because it does mention in the books there's pictures all around the class of people in various agonies and distress, but those probably a bit too cartoony. So I think what I'll do is I'll add, like I said, a few more snot bricks either side of the window, so at least I can get the dark curtains in, which are also mentioned as a feature of Snape's version of the classroom. So there we go, that's our interiors. I haven't covered the carrows because of course we don't know what their interior looked like, and if I'm ever doing a year 7 display, then I'll largely be focusing on the Battle of Hogwarts. So most, if not all, of my modules will feature various piles of rubble, dark creatures and wizards, and heroic defenders in running battles all around the place. Let's add some students in. I'll give Professor Quirrell a chance to teach in this room for a change. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please do comment and like the video. And for more Hogwarts Interiors mock builds, then please subscribe to Bricking It. Bye bye.